Hello. This is
Hello, did we start the broadcast?
It seems that we have. So I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, Candy.
All right.
Hello, this is Verita. Can you hear me?
Hi, Verita. We sure can.
Great.
We're going to get started in just a few minutes here to let our last folks trickle in.
Okay.
Good afternoon, guests. Welcome to our monthly webinar, this month focusing on IMPLAN and event planning. Today, we are having a discussion with Verita Williams, PhD of AKA Sorority. As you may know, my name is Candy Klaus, and I am the Vice President of Customer Success and Education Services here at IMPLAN. My esteemed guest this afternoon is Dr. Verita Williams, who is a retired economics professor from North Carolina A&T State University and active member of AKA Sorority. Throughout this presentation, 2 ways to get in touch with us. If you have a question, please click on the hand icon to raise your hand and ask that live, or you can use the chat box and submit a question that way. So what are we going to go over today? Well, how to use IMPLAN to inform event location decisions, using this real life example of AKA Sorority and what they did using the IMPLAN software, as well as the benefits to conducting an economic impact study overall for your organization. So again, I would like to welcome Dr. Verita Williams to the conversation today. Verita, how are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Excellent. Well, we met in the fall of 2019, right before this whole crazy pandemic, when you
Yes,
came here for training, right?
that's right, yes.
Wonderful. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your personal and professional background?
Well, right now I'm a retired professor from North Carolina A&T State University. I am currently teaching at my alma mater, Johnson C. Smith University, in a virtual setting. My background is basically economics and statistics. My PhD is from Duke University, and it is in economics. And since that time, I have done various studies on environmental economics, the economics of the Caribbean, and I've really gotten excited about looking at different institutional settings and trying to figure out what that impact would be of something that has changed in that environment. So this whole topic is exciting to me. And when I look back at it, I think I've been doing this for a very long time. I just called it something else.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. And how and when did you first get involved with AKA?
Well, as a little child, I grew up in a household of educators, and Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority was always present in my life. And I always attended the little functions that they had. They always have something that is relating to education, growth, how to help the minority communities. So I've known about it all of my life. I didn't belong to this organization until I was in college at Johnson C. Smith University, where I joined a sorority. And I have been working with this sorority ever since. I'm what we call a golden member. I've been a member for about 50 years. And during that time, I've served in about every capacity I can think of in the sorority. And it's really been wonderful. We're all about service, and it's service to all mankind. So it's a lifelong kind of adventure where you may start in your college years or you may join after college once you've graduated. But this organization has been really great for helping communities of color and other communities as well. We are very open to members who want to join, people who are interested, and we're looking at things like how can we help with education? How can we help with people understanding financial literacy? What can we do to get younger students to get prepared for college? So we're doing service projects all the time, and every administration may have a different focus, but we usually come back to the very foundations of what we were started with in the very beginning. And we're 114 years old, by the way.
It's amazing. And anyone who has lived anywhere near one of your chapters, I'm sure has undoubtedly seen your members, both college age and above, out in the community, putting on programs and so forth. So it's really a fantastic organization that's a value to so many communities.
Thank you.
What's your current role with the organization?
Well, currently I am the chairperson for the Economic Impact Study Committee. Our national president, Dr. Glenda Glover, contacted me and said she was really interested in finding out what was the dollar value of some of the activities that the sorority has been involved with. So we sat down and we talked about a plan as to how to come up with this dollar value. So I've been looking at little entities all along with my committee, and we have had some very good, successful events using IMPLAN that would help us to take a look at where we are dollar-wise for different functions that we have. And these functions include things like workshops, regional activities, boulets, leadership activities, community organizations. A whole plethora of data has been collected and organized, and now we can give the members a better picture as to what we are actually worth. We always knew what we did in the community, but just having an idea of what this is worth to a community is really outstanding, and it's really good documentation for us.
Absolutely. Was this position that you have now in existence before this current president, or is this a new initiative?
This is a new initiative doing her platform. Each one of our presidents will have this position for about 4 years. And during that time, they'll have different platforms that they want to emphasize, in addition to all the other things that we do. So for Dr. Glover, our president, this was one of the things that she really wanted to talk about. She's an economist herself, and she really wanted to make sure that all the members of the sorority had a good idea about economic impact, what it means to the sorority, and what it looks like for us, and to make sure that we can explain it to other people.
That's so fantastic. We love to hear that. Not only being able to tell the story of all the good things that you are putting out into the community, but how that actually translates to economic benefits for the community as well.
Yes.
What led you and the organization to IMPLAN?
Well, I taught at A&T for about 34 years. And during my time period there, teaching, I chaired the department, and I always taught a class in economic research and sometimes even econometrics. And we got a chance to have a little sample duo piece of IMPLAN. And I just thought it was fantastic that, that we could do this kind of stuff with the software. So I got a chance to touch it a little bit then. Also, in my publication life, I've had the opportunity to create multipliers and elasticities, and it just really is helpful to have all this data in one place. So it was a choice in my head. Either you can go down and get down on nuts and bolts and create this system yourself, which would be really tedious, or you can look for a system that is not a cookie cutter system, but one that you can kind of use and is very flexible that would fit our organization. And IMPLAN just really had the best package out there. In addition, it's located in Huntersville, North Carolina, which is not that far from Greensboro, where I'm located. So I really like that, the ability to make sure that I was developing it the way the sorority wanted and understanding the guidelines that IMPLAN had in place.
That's fantastic. And we're very close to your alma mater.
That's right. Yep. That's right.
When you guys were looking to put this together, did you consider any alternative solutions?
We did. We looked at some other forecasting models. I think it's EBP, but we found out that they weren't as complete, and they had emphasis on other things like transfer pricing and looking at cost market adjustments and those kind of things. And we really weren't that particularly interested in that. We wanted to make sure that we could explain what happened all throughout the economy, and using your NAICS codes was wonderful because there wasn't any piece of our planning event process that we couldn't find. And so it was really helpful to go through it step by step. I think it was user friendly and very easy to use. And it gave us the output that I needed so that I could turn around and then explain it to leaders in my organization so that we can share it and make sure that we document where we are and where we want to be.
That's fantastic. When you were putting together these initial thoughts and working with that president, What answers were you looking for that would help you define success in terms of this whole initiative?
Well, success for me at this point, and I had a wonderful committee that I worked with varying skill sets that helped me so much. It was was for me to be able to show a orderly presentation um, in a friendly mode so that the members of our sorority would be comfortable with economics. Economics is not always a topic that we talk about every day. So I wanted to make sure that we could break it down and so that they could take a look at pieces that were important that would help them to understand our whole story. Because the story behind our sorority has been told, but it's never been told in a dollar and cents kind of mode. It's only been talked about in terms of what we've done. These are the programs that we've done. These are the places we have done these programs in. So now we have data so that each region can then turn around and say, this is what our region has done. This is what it looks like for us. These are our partners that we found out that we actually work with. So it's been very beneficial for us to talk about this data on a regional level. We have about 10 regions, 9 which are within the United States, so that each region has a much better picture of where they are financially, who they have been working with, the kind of positions that they've been able to create during our regional activities. And it's a better picture, it's good documentation, and it's wonderful for us to have accurate data. That's the other piece about IMPLAN that I like, is the ability to be able to get data from sources that I know that are well documented, and that I can go back and recheck, because I always want to be able to tell a truthful story. And I found out that the data that's been used in IMPLAN is from great locations, and I can count on them.
That's so great. And that's one of the reasons why I personally love your story, because it hasn't been told before. We hear about the economic impact of things like the Republican or Democratic National Convention or giant sporting events, but this is a different kind of story that we're able to tell. And it's hits a social part for me too, because I also am a sorority girl. So,
Okay, very good.
all right. So let's get into what you guys actually modeled. What have you used IMPLAN specifically to look at?
Well, when we first started with it, we had just finished the 2019 Leadership Conference. And we do this thing called lifelong learning, where we try really hard to make sure that our sorority members are learning even after graduation. So we have these leadership conferences every other year. And at this conference, we learn lots of activities that can help us in our sorority life, as well as our personal life and our positions that we're working in. So we had one in Nashville, Tennessee in 2019. And it was an in-house kind of experience. And I was able to model our contributions that we brought. For example, we do things like looking at eyeglasses. We may have a program that's going to collect different eyeglasses so that they can be reused and refitted for other people. Or we do things like donate clothes to different global need programs. So I was able to take all this information that was brought in by our different regions. I could then use the IMPLAN model to look at how much of an effect we had for that time period that we were in Nashville. I was able to look at the kind of money that we brought to the area and how it was impacted and used in the Nashville area, the kind of jobs that were created because we came to Nashville, food market industry, the use of equipment and different facilities that we use there. So it was great for me to be able to start that way, and that was my initial project, was to look at the 2019 Leadership Conference in Nashville, Tennessee.
And we aren't just talking about the sorority level spending. We're talking about the individuals who come to these events as well. Is that correct?
Yes, and that's something that we're noted for when we go to these different conferences. We always bring our families. We always shop. We eat. It's more than just it's more than, like you say, it's more than just a sorority function. This is a very big function, and we have had lots of articles that are written up about when the AKAs come to town. This is what happens. These are the number of businesses that have been participating with us, and this is what it looks like in terms of adding different people for meals. And for example, in Charlotte, we had an activity there, and they said that we had the largest sit-down meal that had ever been had in Charlotte. And because of that, X number of people were hired, X number of um, restaurants were impacted. So I was able to go back and capture this data and turn it into a dollar value.
That's fantastic. And if anyone has ever seen when you folks come to town, it is quite a party.
Yes, it is. It is. It's a very exciting time. Very exciting. Yeah.
It is. So when
Mhm.
you modeled that in IMPLAN, you looked at spending on things like hotels, restaurants, retail, maybe things like recreation as well, as families are out and about in these locations?
Yes, because we always have activities for our husbands and our children who come along with us. We always have different activities that get us to tour the city. Golf tournaments are going on at the very same time. And then people are using the facilities in the hotels, but they're also using the outside activities that are in an area like Charlotte. So I really like how you have it set up so you can look at Charlotte as a whole, that MSPA area, because lots of times when we come in, we use hotels that are outside of Charlotte as well. So I was able to capture those different locations, not just in the facility that's near convention centers and things like that. I could also capture those facilities that are outside, but still within that same Charlotte area. So that was important for me to look at too. And it's good for comparisons as well. We have in our different regions, we have different numbers of members. So it was interesting to look at, for me outside of this, what was going on in different regions as they were having their activities. I think one of our regions includes New York City. That was really hard to work with, but it was really good to see what happened in the New York area when they had their conference. And then these could be different things about cost biasness in different areas, but still very good. And this also helps us as we prepare for our other events, because now we know who we are working with and we know the value that we bring to the cities. So when it's time to negotiate, we now have facts. We have data that we can show you. This is what happened in 2020 when we came to Richmond. These are the hotels that were impacted. These were the restaurants. These are the number of people that were employed because of us. Therefore, it would give these businesses the opportunity to work with us and negotiate better deals with us.
So based on the past impacts that you've run, you're able to hopefully save money in the long run
Yeah.
by demonstrating not only the good that's put out into the community when the whole sorority and all the family members come to town, but also that they spend a lot of money when they're
Yes.
in town.
Yes, and we found out that businesses want to associate with us. They want to talk with us when we're talking about other things, because we do lots of scholarship programs. And many times when we're writing up our grants and these different documents, it's really nice that we can give them information so that they can say, yes, I do want to be a part of this. I do want to help you with your educational advancement funds, or I do want to help you with your reading program. And because this is what we brought to the community, and just being able to look at that on a local level has been important as well. We looked at it from the regional point of view. I've looked at it from the national point of view, and I've looked at it from the local point of view, um, to give us a better negotiation point at the table. That's what we're trying to do with some of this data as well.
That's fantastic. In terms of the data that you actually put into the model, I'm assuming it was pretty easy for you to get the sorority level spending, what they would have spent on renting hotel conference rooms and group dinners and things like that. How did you gather the data on the individual spending or the spending of members and their families while they're in certain places?
Well, we did several surveys during this administration, and we were able to collect um, a very good amount of data in order to proxy the rest of the data. So um, um, the surveys have been amazing. The return rate has been really good. And having that alongside of the data with numbers on sorority members, it was easy to expand it out to see what it should look like for the average person in this region. So that's how we collected data. I think we did about 3 different surveys since this administration started, and the sorority has been great for giving us information. Spending information, I think has been very good, has been collected, and I think we've kind of helped them kind of organize it into a better, more uniform way as well. So I think it's been like a win-win for us because we've had a chance to take a look at the data that we have, and we've had a chance to take a look at how the data could be constructed better so we can make more assessments in the future to help the sorority. So, you know, being able to tell this story in the present moment is important. In my mind, I would also like to go backward and tell the story as what has happened in the past with different programs and different administrations that we've had. So there's a lot of room for growth there for what we can do with this sorority of over 320,000 members. So we've got room to grow here.
Wow, is that all? And it sounds like not only are they engaged in that lifelong learning you talked about, but them returning surveys is miracle in and of itself. If anyone out there has ever done survey research, it's really hard to get people to answer those kinds of questions,
Yes,
especially when you start talking about money.
yeah, it is hard. It is hard, and I was excited to learn about preferences that the sorority had as well. I think all that information is very good, especially when we're looking at one of our focus is for economics. We always take a special focus on economics, whether it's economic literacy or economic legacy, to see where we are in terms of things like home buildings and home loans and where we would like to be with donations, where our donations are going. So lots of data has been collected, and there's lots and lots of room to use that data to help us with our future projections and helping our communities. Because not only do we do these large, big workshops and regionals, but we do lots of tiny things in our communities that sometimes people don't understand the impact of those different things in our communities. So it's given us a good starting point, I think. And I see that going forward in the future, if we will continue to collect this kind of data, it'll make our story more accurate.
That's fantastic. How often would you say you run an impact analysis?
Well, depends. Um, it depends. With my group of members that I work with, there's 6 of us. I would say that we'll probably complete a run maybe in a couple of months. We'll run it several times, you know, to get it to the point that we're comfortable with it and to make sure that we put everything in accurately. Um, so I'd say every couple of months we will make these kind of runs, and then we'll sit down and talk about them, and then talk about what it means. Because many times when you're talking to people who aren't that interested in economics, you have to talk about it in terms that they can relate to. So to me, that was the harder part, was to be able to talk about it in relatable terms, and that was also important for our national president. She wanted me to be able to talk about it in terms of words that other members could be comfortable with. So that wordy piece was, to me, is the hardest part. The number part was the fun part.
Yeah, absolutely. What advice or any kind of interesting perspective would you offer to another organization that is looking to use IMPLAN to support their ongoing efforts, or if they were holding a big event or something like that?
Well, I would say that it's important that the organization itself be able to validate their data and to validate their existence. And they can do this really easily through IMPLAN. It also helps with those visuals that will translate information to the public and translate information to others about their organization. So if we are collecting data and we want others to know about us, what better software to use than IMPLAN? Because it will give you everything that you need to create those visuals, to talk about it, and to validate and make sure that you're comfortable with where your organization actually is. Not just to talk about words, but talk about the dollars, and what has happened in the area that you live, work, and play in.
That's so fantastic. We do have a couple questions coming in from our guests.
Okay.
The first one, are your results published publicly? And if so, where can we find these studies?
Our results are in an executive summary that our president will certainly publish at the end of her administration. Okay, so we have documents that we have in-house that we work with our members, but the sorority itself, I'm sure, will publish those findings after this administration has ended.
Wonderful. Another question from our crowd. Really fascinating. What was the temporal resolution of the data captured by IMPLAN to make this assessment? And how was the convention's impact decoupled from the impact of any other ongoing events or situations?
Well, I only had information about Alpha Kappa Alpha's events. So that when I created these different models on different activities and different programs and different projects, I was working in a solo environment. So it wasn't hard to. I didn't feel the need to separate out other pieces. Let me give you an example. One of the projects that I have worked on has been our program piece. And one of the big platforms for this administration has been to increase the value of the pre-process for college students, which is really a big thing, getting students to understand all those things they need to know before they go to college, the different preparatory skill set that they need to develop. And so we have different programs in our local levels where we actually work with high school students to get them ready to go to college and to get them to understand the whole process of how you need to apply for grants and aid, what you need to do to study. We do SAT prep to get them ready. So we're working in a solo environment. And once we evaluate that and put a dollar value on what it cost us to set up these programs and to administer the programs, it was very easy for us to then take a look at what the total impact looks like for that community. So we're working in a kind of solo environment.
Very nice. We have one question from Eric that I will go ahead and answer. What if you can't do a survey of event attendees? Which we do get this question a lot. Not everyone has such an engaged membership base that is willing to answer questions, especially if you're talking about surveying random people, maybe about their spending at a giant sporting event, and you're just trying to see how many people are coming to town and what they're spending their money on. There are a lot of resources available, usually from either state or local convention and visitors bureau, that will give average spending per person. And this is what we recommend using if you don't have that specific spending that you're able to get from members or from any kind of survey. And they'll usually give you spending maybe an in-state versus out of state. For example, here in Charlotte, I'm probably not going to fly to Raleigh. So I'm going to be more of an in-state tourist when I go there because I'm going to drive my car. But someone coming to Charlotte from California or Raleigh from California is probably going to fly. So again, looking at different ways that that money is spent when it is here. So that's the first place that I would recommend that you go. It gives a breakdown of, what kind of money is spent on things like Verita mentioned earlier, all the hotel spending, food spending, recreation, things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that helped us a lot when we were doing our regional composition for hotels and daily money spent on different food activities, both in-house and out of house. So yeah, those are great examples that could help as you are modeling your different impacts. They're very good, and we did use some of those too.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, they're really helpful when you don't really have an idea, just to get a start as well. If we start to do a survey and our results are skewing really high or really low, we might want to check with those as well to think maybe we have really high or low spenders in our group, but it might be that we're having some sort of bias in our survey as well. So they're often great to just check out.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I love the studies that IMPLAN has that you can read about too. That kind of gives you a guide. It just helped us a lot to see what other organizations and how they're using IMPLAN. I think that that's a real helpful piece instead of just reading like a how-to. Here's a real example. That was very helpful for us.
Oh, that's wonderful. And that's why, again, I love your story because it's something that we haven't heard before.
Okay.
Giving people another angle of things that they can use economic impact and IMPLAN for. All right, how do you go about creating a model that may not be included in the specifications? So I think what you're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is Agnitra, I believe. If you have an industry, so to speak, that doesn't exist in the NAICS specification, like tourism, that's not an industry by itself. So what we do is we look at the industries that make up tourism. So we might look at airfare, trains, car transportation, hotels, campgrounds, bed and breakfasts, all the places that a tourist will spend money. And this is going to differ based on what kind of tourist you have. So in the case of AKA, they, correct me if I'm wrong, Brito, usually head to cities and then spread out around them. So if they're heading to Charlotte, they may do a bunch of events in Charlotte and then head out to a golf course, 30 miles away or something like that. But
Yes.
that spending is going to be really different than a family who's going on a backpacking national park tour, right? And they're spending money at maybe a grocery store, maybe the national park stores themselves, so spending with the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
So we can look at it in terms of where that money is spent. You can also aggregate industries and lump them together. If you don't know if they're spending on a sit-down restaurant versus a cafe versus a fast food, you can put all of the restaurant industries together by aggregating them and put the spending in that newly created food and beverage kind of industry.
It's true.
Agnitra, did you want to unmute yourself? I want to make sure we answered your question.
Hello. Hi. I've been trying to figure out how I would be able to unmute myself and ask a question, but thank you very much. This is actually a very helpful session. I myself am an economist, and I was approached a couple of times by local industries about doing IMPLAN impact analyses. And I have a friend of mine who actually recommended IMPLAN and said that, look, it's very user-friendly and there are lots of things you can actually do with it. So one of the things that I'm trying to do is there is this rodeo event that happens every year, and the organizers would like to have an impact study done on this event so that when they go to their sponsors, they can say, look, we draw in this much money. Or if they go to their legislators, they can say, look, we get this much tax revenue by holding this event. But when I was looking at the the trial version I have right now, trying to see if there is a rodeo industry. I couldn't find one. The closest I think I found was, let's see, like recreational. So I was basically wondering, like, how would I go about, let's say, doing an impact analysis for something, an event that may not be there specifically? Like, how do I go about doing it?
Absolutely. Well, the good news is if you look at the detailed NAICS, there is rodeo in there.
Oh, okay.
That happens to be NAICS 711320, and the title is Rodeo Managers with and Without Facilities. So that would fall under IMPLAN Code 500, which is Promoters of Performing Arts and Sports Agents for Public Figures. So any of the
Okay.
spending that's done by the rodeo could be run through that event type.
Mm-hmm.
Then you could look at the spending of all the attendees and actually all the participants too, because you have folks that are coming in to perform and maybe sell things, whatever the case may be. All of that spending is coming to town as well.
Exactly. I mean, it would be really useful, like an input-output study. So basically, I can like open up the bigger sector and then put in the more detailed, stuff in it, I guess.
Absolutely. And we do have a bridge available, so you can look from that detailed NAICS industry to the IMPLAN industry. And that's located on my favorite website, support.implan.com.
Okay, I'm gonna look it up. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Okay. Very good.
All right. Did we have another hand up? Well, we do have another question that came in. Besides spending, Verita, has your team monetized or included the impacts of charity or various other events that sororities would be targeting?
We've looked a little bit at that. One of the things that we're still kind of playing around with is the impact of our volunteer hours. We are playing with that. I know that's not one of the things that IMPLAN would looks at in detail, but we have been trying to. We're all about service, and we've been trying really hard to. We know what it's worth in terms of dollars and cents on a point, but we don't know the economic impact of the volunteer hours. So that's been one of the things that I still have questions about. I can look at what the United States says that the average volunteer hour is worth for activities, but I'm having problems trying to expand it to see what that economic impact is of that volunteer hour. So
yeah, that's a good question. And we do get that one quite a bit too. We actually are recommending, if you don't want to break it out by volunteer type, like what the value of a school teacher would be as different than the value of a woodworker, perhaps, that the independent sector puts this out every year, and they value on average an hour of volunteer time. So if, again, you don't have any more detailed values, you can go check out that. We do have an article on everyone's favorite support site, support.implan.com, that outlines how to do this as well.
And that's the way we reported it in our last Boule meeting by using that dollar value that was given on the independent sector. But do you think that IMPLAN will advance to the point of using international data at any point?
Verita, it seems like you are on the payroll when you are putting these answers out there. That is actually something that is coming this fall. We should see Canadian data at the provincial level and data for all the OECD countries as well. So that won't be anything less than the country level data. But that is at the country level and that's the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And there's, I believe, about 40 member countries that are involved in that. So we'll be able to look at trade across countries for that kind of modeling. So that will be very fun, and that is coming soon.
That is wonderful, because that's our 10th region, is our international region. And I've had problems, with them, because they want the same information that I'm giving on all the other regions, but I've had to only give them like partial information for my international region, because they're so spread out. But they're still, actively participating in our platforms. So that's good to hear. It's very good to hear.
Absolutely. And I think we have another hand raised. Is that Ira or Ira?
Yes, can you hear me?
We sure can.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I'm here, I guess, in the wrong webinar, but I am interested in implants, and I'm more interested in finding out where I would go to find out how to calculate the direct and indirect economic impacts of a manufacturing plant. And that's what caused me to listen, and obviously I'm grateful for the sources, and thank you all for the time you have taken. But I need to be more focused in my direction if I can ask you to do that.
Absolutely. That's a very simple use case that we have at IMPLAN. Instead of choosing industries like hotels and restaurants, you would simply choose the manufacturing industry that you wanted to look at. And that is absolutely something that IMPLAN does. And by doing that, you analyze any part of the production function. So maybe you have employment, or maybe you have GDP, whatever the case may be, enter all those values, and you'll get the direct, indirect, and induced. And if,
I'm sorry.
yeah, go ahead. If you'd like a demonstration, somebody can walk you through that. You can reach out to sales@implan.com.
Yes, I think that's what I have to do rather than take up other people's times, because this is more of a focused discussion, and I'm grateful to having listened to it. And I wish you all good luck on that, and you're figuring out what your benefits are in coming to a place, and that's what we're trying to do also, but differently.
Absolutely. Well, we will make sure that you get connected to one of our sales team members who can give you a demonstration. All right, I seem to be out of questions. Am I missing anyone? If I haven't answered your question, unmute yourself, please, and ask it right now. All right. Well, hearing nothing, then, Frida, anything you'd like to mention before we sign off for today?
I have thoroughly enjoyed having the opportunity to do this kind of study, and working with IMPLAN has truly made it a treat. So thanks so much for the training, and of course answering all my questions and keeping us going. So it's been a very good experience for me. So thanks again.
Well, it has absolutely been our pleasure to have you as a customer and work with you over the years. And we all look forward to when your current director publishes all these findings. We'll make sure to link those from our website too when those become public, to share them with all of our other IMPLAN users.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for joining us, Verita. Thank you to all of our attendees. If we didn't get to your question, or you think of something later, feel free to reach out to support@implan.com, and we will answer all of your burning questions about events or any other type of economic impact question you may have. So again, thank you, and everyone have a fantastic afternoon.
All right, bye-bye.